You know that for me, growing up on my grandfather's ranch in the summers, working on his ranch was absolutely huge in my masculine journey. The very time that my dad stepped out of my life into his own struggles and battles, my grandfather stepped in. And I lived in L.A., but summers I spent on my grandfather's cattle ranch. And being with him, working, putting up hay, riding horses, chasing stray steers was huge for me, because here was a man who intervened. He saw my need, and he took me through a series of almost initiations. Here's how you drive a tractor, right? Here's how you rope a steer. Here's how you paint a barn. And I left all that a number of years ago. My grandfather's long passed away, and I live in the city again. And being out here at the ranch, it just evokes something so powerfully in me. There's so much memory. There's so much about my heart that really is captured here in horses and hard work. And last summer, spent a week at another ranch with my family, and it was a fabulous week of horses and riding and kind of getting all that back. The smell of saddles, the sound of hoofs on rocks, and just all of it. When I got home from that week, there was the newspaper, the Sunday paper was lying on the table, and I opened it, and the feature section, the headline was "Cowboy to the Core." And I stopped and I stared at that for 5 minutes. I felt like Jesus was speaking to me. I felt like he said, "John, I see you. I know your heart. I know what you love. And I also know what you're made of. And you are. You are the real deal. You are cowboy to the core." Not in the sense that I need to go buy a ranch now and, live the West, but more, I know what you're made of. I know who you are. The spirit of it's still there. And as I was just sitting out in the barn today, smelling the hay again, drinking in that experience, asking God again, what do you think of me? What do you want to say to me? He reminded me of that word. He reminded me of that. I cut it out at the time and put it in my journal as a way of hanging on to it. He brought me back to that, to say, "John, you are. You are. Let me remind you." And my reaction was really, I think, kind of typical. My first reaction was not, "Wow, that's so great," My reaction was, "Really? Really, God? That's honestly what you see in me?" And then he just said, "John," he said, "you know in your heart it's true." And I just had to stop and admit, "You're right, Lord. You're right. You have spoken to me many times in many different ways." And I just had to accept it and receive it as true. Bart, how was the time for you today?
I got a fence post in the ground, and when I started today, I really didn't anticipate much, but I love being outdoors. I love being here, and I love having simple tools in my hand because it allows my mind to just wander. And then I pulled the tailgate of the pickup down, and I pulled my journal out, and boy, I was amazed at what God did. From nowhere, just tears started running down my cheeks, and gosh, God, what's this about? And I think one of the things that I prayed was, God, take me back to that wound if I need to go back there, and He did, and all of this about, I guess, lost opportunity, missed opportunity with my dad, and just a lot of emotion in that.
Yes.
And it was a very tender time.
Yeah. Did God speak anything to you?
Yeah. He really did. He said, "Bart, you have a strength that's yet to be revealed." And that thought at that moment was really huge for me.
Wow.
Really was. And I think another thing, having those thoughts about my dad and going back to that, I realized that since 19 years old, I really hadn't been fathered.
Yeah.
And I asked God, I said, God, would you come in and take over where my dad left off?
Yeah.
Even though it was that long ago.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a void that's been there for a lot of years.
There is. There is, Bart. That's so good. And that's so crucial to all of our journeys. You know, at some point, even a good father leaves, you know.
Yeah.
And it's time for God to take over and father us, and to simply give Him permission to do that. Ask Him to do that. Father me. Take me through those experiences of initiation into my strength. Reveal the strength that I don't yet see. Tell me who I am. And Morgan, for you, getting back on the horse, that was God, your Father, initiating you, saying, Morgan, I know it's a little scary. Come into this. I have something for you.
Yes.
You're going to discover something about yourself.
Yes.
And what you discovered was you loved it.
Yeah.
And you can do it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You do have what it takes.
Yes.
God's showing us that. So Bart, and that permission and invitation is going to be rich in the days ahead.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Gary, how'd the day go for you?
I spent a lot of my time just going through my journal of what God had said in the past to me. And that was good. I needed to remember what He had already spoken. And really the only thing that was new that God added that I needed to hear was simply out of Ephesians 1:4 that I loved you and I chose you before I made this world. Before, Gary, you said anything. Before, Gary, you've done anything. In fact, before you were a thing. I loved you. And I chose you. And that was huge for me to hear that.
Wow.
That's what I really needed.
God's done a number of things over the years to heal my wound and to speak to me the words I so need to hear to answer my question. A lot of that has been one-on-one with Him in different situations, sometimes on airplanes, you know, and sometimes in the wilderness, and sometimes just driving down the street. But living in this band, living in deep friendship with other men, has been crucial to my healing. See, if men who I know are men think that I'm one, well, then maybe it's true. You see, masculinity is bestowed by masculinity. And first it's from the father to the son. It's from a masculine source that the boy learns who he is and that he has what it takes. But then it grows larger. It turns to the fellowship of men. And in the company of other men, we discover more and more deeply who we are and what we're made of. And your words to me over the years have meant the world to me as a rich part of what God's used to heal my wound and to really call me out.
There's some words you can only hear from God in terms of validation. And I think there are some things you can only hear from other men. When a man believes in you, really believes you, not with some kind of cliche platitude, but, you know, it says, I want you in my foxhole in a life and death situation. That breaks through in ways that nothing else does.
Has it been easy entering the wound and pushing through to healing?
No, not at all.
Today was incredibly painful for me, but you know, something that I was thinking and praying is that this pain's not just for me to find myself, but I think it's going to prepare me for something else much bigger on the other side.
Exactly.
It's worth paying the price of going into the wound, the fear, the confusion, the disappointment, for the freedom that lies on the other
Yes.
side. That's what I want
Yeah.
so bad.
Yeah.
The life
Yeah.
And the freedom of others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The life you've found, the words, the validation,
Yeah.
the new sense of mission.
Yes.
Is it worth it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It is so worth it.
Yeah.